What really happened on the 4th of February 1555? Come with me and let's find out. You ready, Cat? It was on this date that John Rogers became the first Protestant English martyr for being burnt at the stake by Mary I. Rogers' crime? Printing the text and the music to the YMCA in plain English in the Bible for the very first time. Rogers just wanted to make people happy, but Mary I didn't like happiness at all. She hated it when people were having fun. That's why people nicknamed her Bloody Mary. And whenever she heard somebody singing the song, she'd come along and say, "Oi, stop that." And because she was queen, people had to. But Rogers knew he had a hit on his hands, and he also knew Mary wouldn't last forever if he could just keep the song alive long enough. Luckily, his best friend and Birmingham's best known allotment gardener, my great-great-great-great-great-great-grandfather, Notably Delaney, was on hand. It was Notably's idea to hide the song in the Bible, which is the last place anyone would ever look for a fun song. He also agreed to hide a copy somewhere on his massive allotment, so they could always run up some more copies if, for example, all the Bibles in England were ever destroyed. Bloody Mary did her best to stop people singing the song, but there was nothing she could do against a catchy little number like that. If only there was some way to stop John Rogers. But he was a good man, and she didn't have a leg to stand on, until the day she caught him weeing into a cup which he thought didn't belong to anybody, but which turned out to belong to Lady Jane Grey. She had him then, and threw him into Newgate prison. Obviously what John Rogers should have done then was just keep his head down and wait to get out. That's what his best friend would have told him, but Notably Delaney wasn't around. He'd had to go to Berlin to work on some building sites, a rite of passage for all young Irish men. So while Bloody Mary was out riding around England, Scotland and Wales, destroying Bibles like Billy-O, John Rogers was teaching the lads in prison how to do the YMCA. Bloody Mary returned to Newgate prison, looking to rub John Rogers' nose in it because she'd got the last of the Bibles. But when she turned up at Newgate prison, she was confronted with a line of lads, all doing the YMCA like you wouldn't believe. That was the final straw, and she condemned John Rogers to be burnt at the stake. To be fair, she did give him one last chance to take it all back, but he wouldn't do it. Tied to the stake, the flames lapping around his legs, he did the YMCA one final defiant time, hoping people would remember. But they didn't, and the song was lost for over 200 years until a ragtag gang of misfit musicians found it again, buried in a Birmingham allotment in 1978. But you can't blame Notably Delaney for that. He returned to England as soon as he heard John Rogers was in trouble. But he'd been hit on the head with a brick while on the building site and couldn't remember exactly where he'd hidden the song either. And anyway, he would have remembered eventually, except for a freak flash storm which washed him into one of the many holes he had dug on the allotment in Birmingham.